Okay, so on this Money's Morning, this is like basically part two talking about stuff that you gotta stop as we move into the rest of 2026 in order to make sure that you're accomplishing your goals. And so if you haven't seen part one talking about overestimation, go watch that. But in this one, I want to talk about another reason why people aren't always accomplishing their goals, and that's overcommitment. And so overestimation and overcommitment are different. And when we think about overcommitment, this is for my people pleasers. This is for my people who are saying yes to everything. And I think that there is a season that we're in where we have to learn that there should be value assigned to our yes. Not everything gets a yes. We have to start leveraging no. People got to get their muscle grown in terms of being able to accept no's. But where this comes in is like, a couple of things when it comes to commitment. First of all, for my people who like tend to lean into introversion, and that really just speaks to how you recharge. You know, we love to say yes when we are hype and energetic and on a high, but the date when that thing comes due, more often than not, is when you don't want to be bothered. And so sometimes the overcommitment thing happens in terms of being honest about like what your cycle is around. I'm not busy right now, so I can commit to things, but I need to be committing to things that are going to occur in this season when I have that space and time and energy for it. And so one of the issues I see with overcommitment is around people just looking at their calendar, but not holistically considering what it's going to be like for them to do it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you can't just look at like, oh, I have a calendar slot. I'm free because most of you haven't factored in, well, you need to eat, you need to sleep. Have you put in time for your family? Have you put in time to go to the gym? There's all of these things that are part of life outside of just the work. And what I'm seeing happening is that people are committing, and I'm not even just talking about during work hours. You're doing happy hours, you're doing dinners, you're doing conferences, you're doing all of these things, you're committing to all of these things that eat up time, and that is our most limited and most valuable commodity. Now, to be clear, that is a part of being a professional. Yes, there are things that you are going to have to do or need to do or get to do outside of the office. But what I'm saying is some of y'all are ODing on the amount of things that you're committing to. And it's almost become like your high. It's like you enjoy the seeing your people, and that's great. But what I want you to start thinking about is like, what is the cost of my yes? And so a lot of times we're just saying yes to things without factoring in what am I saying no to. So if I'm saying yes to going to dinner to this with this client, I'm now saying no to dinner with my family and bedtime stories and bath time. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I think that part of the way that you navigate and help yourself recalibrate as it relates to not overcommitting is being more aware of what you are now saying no to. Because the reality is that we keep making these decisions based on today's energy, which is not going to be tomorrow's energy, but you're also making it based on can I technically do it versus should I do it? What is the cost of this? Yes. What am I otherwise going to be saying no to? What am I otherwise going to be missing out on? And I think that because a lot of times we don't ask that question, we it seems fine. But a lot of the careers that many people are trying to emulate and trying to keep pace with, if you go to their kind of sessions and their talks and stuff when they're closer to retirement or they're further down the line, so many times they talk about all of them things that they missed that they can't get back. And so there is this tension. It's like, yes, I've built this great career and I'm thankful for that. And I also missed a ton of my kids growing up. My kids, we had to kind of work through maybe some challenges and resentment because I was absentee. I was providing in terms of their access and private schools and this and that, but I wasn't necessarily there from a present standpoint. And so we have to start just being real about like, what is it that, and just taking stock of like, what is actually at stake when you're committing to all these things. And so, yes, you may be on this kind of like rocket ship trajectory, but that is one lane of life. Like your career is one facet of your life. And so a lot of what I'm saying from overcommitment, and don't my folks who are full-time at home too, because there's overcommitment even in terms of extracurriculars and things like that. So we all can do it in different ways, but the point is like to what end, what is the overall goal, and how are we contributing to the burnout that we then complain about because of how we're stacking our calendar, because of how we're committing to things, because we're not willing to say no, we're not willing to push back on some of these things. And we've got to reset this mindset that we don't have any ability to say no, that we don't have any ability to push back. And to be clear, I am not advocating for not being a hard worker, for not being present or leveraging these things. I'm just saying that there is a time that we are in now where people have to be more strategic about it, and you have to be more thoughtful and intentional about it, because some of this burnout is really self-generated and it is self-inflicted because of the fact that we continue to overcommit. All right, so we're gonna keep it real. We're gonna keep talking about this, but I'm gonna be back with some more thoughts.